Okay, good afternoon and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube. Iyun to lean on, the last Iyun to lean on in the hundreds of Shulchan Aruch Yomi, doing 199 Kufsadi Tet. Al mi mezamin v'mi en mezamin. Who can participate or who's chayav to participate in Zimun, who's not? Halacha Vav talks about women. Women, are they chayav in Zimun or not? So we learn that women could make a Zimun. It says clear, it's more clear in Halacha Zayin. Nashim mezamnos la'atzman rishus. If there's three women eating together, they go out for brunch, they go out for breakfast, they get their latte, latte, and to get their, scooped out bagel with tuna fish. So they're eating, their scooped out bagel with tuna fish, they got their latte or their iced coffee, and they're enjoying the presence of the other two women who don't work and are just living it up on their husband's salary. I'm joking. I'm sure there's a lot of women like that, but they have to make zima now. If they ate a kazayas of bread, I don't know how much actual bread is in their scooped out bagel, but they had a kazayas of bread, so they could make a zima rishus. Now rishus does not mean that it's optional. It's really better that they do make a zima, right? Like if you think about mitzvah shazman grama, like the blowing of shofar, hearing shofar on Rosh Hashanah. So the women are not obligated, right? Mitzvah shazman grama nashim pturos, they're exempt. It doesn't say nashim rishus. Somehow it got into our vernacular that we believe that women also are custom. Not vernacular is the wrong word. Our custom that women should also, and they're also feel like they're chiyuv, they're mechuyev to hear shofar to the point that it's got crazy because the woman has to hear shofar and the men have to watch the kids when technically the woman should be watching the kids. The whole point of mitzvah shazman grama is because the woman is supposed to take care of the kids, right? And therefore it frees up the men to go hear the mitzvah. The women are not chayiv. So now what happened nowadays? Because everyone says I don't know whether it's feminism or it's just women want to feel more connected to God, more spiritual, because the seminaries are teaching them you gotta marry the Torah, literally marry the Torah like a nun. I'm joking. You have to marry the biggest Talmud Chacham, the biggest Avrech. They feel they want to be spiritual also, So on Rosh Hashanah, one of the holiest days of the year, they want to hear shofar also. So what happens? The husband has to rearrange his entire schedule. He's down with Vasikin. He's sleeping for half of the tefillah. Why? So his wife, he can get back early enough so his wife could hear shofar. This is what we do nowadays. We have to make sure the wives all hear the shofar. Even though the Torah explicitly told you that Torah doesn't want women to hearing the shofar. Torah does not mean that. Right? It says in the Gemara Rishus. Rishus means optional. It says pater. Mitzvah shazman grama nashim pturos. They're exempt. God does not want you to do it. If you do that, if you insist on hearing shofar on Rosh Hashanah, in my opinion, that's Baal Tosef. You're adding on to the Torah and you're ruining the Torah. Because the Torah wanted you to be free from the mitzvah so you can take care of the kids, so the husband can fulfill his obligation of shofar and tefillah on Rosh Hashanah properly. This is a big problem. Megillah they have to hear, but in Rosh Hashanah, this is really where it applies, and it bothers me to no end. But here and other places, Nashim Mezamnos Lasman Rishus, when they're eating a meal, no, it's not going to hurt them. They're having brunch at Toddy's on Central Avenue. I don't know if that place still exists or whatever. When I went to high school 20-something years ago in Rambam, they had this place, Toddy's. Maybe it still exists. I don't know. Or Central Perk, I think that still exists. They're out for breakfast. So who cares if they, if the mezamnos rishus, they go ahead and they make a zimun. Rishus means it's recommended. That's what rishus really means. It's recommended. Now the reason it's not a complete chiyuv obligation for a woman is because I mentioned the whole idea of zimun is to prepare yourself to make yourself more serious for Birkas Hamazon because you had levity during the meal. So men are generally more intellectual than women, more serious than women. Not so emotional. So during a meal, they're having a good time. There's levity, and then they want to prepare for Birkas Hamazon. Women, they're always in a state of levity. They're always joking around. They're never serious women. It's very hard for for them to understand Musar or anything like that. Give Musar with the women because they don't understand that they're not dealing with their brain. They're dealing with their heart. They're emotional. So how much is Zimun really going to help? It might help a little bit, right? Of course, it's going to be levity, more levity than men. They're going to schmooze about their husbands and about what goes on in the bedroom with their husbands. Women talk about this generally. So the women talk about this much more than men. Men, even the best of friends will never mention anything about the bedroom to to their best friends, the men best friends. But the women, they'll talk about this all day. This is what they talk about. This is interesting to them. You know, I wish men would talk about this. Anyway, so they're schmoozing with there's complete levity with the woman. So maybe it'll help for Birkas Hamazon when they take out, their sitter, with their tehillim, and they'll say Birkas Hamazon maybe with a little more. It helps a little bit, but doesn't help completely. For men, it helps completely. That's why it's a chiyuv. Now, the Halacha Zion says if they're eating with men, though, right, then they're chayiv. Right, 3 men are there, and women are also eating there, common Shabbos meal or something like that. So women have to actually be yotzei zimun with the men. They have to hear it from the men, and if they're not at the table, then they're not yotzei. They have a chiyuv of zimun, just like 3 men together. One can't just leave and say, "Don't do zimun." You need to do zimun. The women have to be there when they're doing zimun. This is a halacha that's not talked about so much, but it's a very clear halacha from the Gemara, I believe. So the question is, what's the difference? Why is it when they're eating with men, are they chayiv in zimun? When they're eating by themselves, it's a rishos. So the answer is that when they're eating with men and women together at a table, there's extreme levity, right? That's why they don't have mixed seating anymore at weddings, because men and women together, it should be extreme levity if you're normal. There's extreme levity over there. So even for women, right, there's zimun, there's preparation to get prepared for benching. Now, they're not going to be so serious as men for the benching, but they'll be a little more serious. And because of the extreme levity of men and women together, that's why they're chayiv, I believe, in zimun when they're eating along with men. Hope you enjoyed today's shir. See you in the next one.